Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'll be working on my Fusion Ficus project. The top of this tree died, so I took a cutting off the tree, rooted the cutting, and then I planted the cutting on top of the main trunk, which was still alive, and I'm trying to fuse the two together to make one tree again. The last time that we looked at this tree was in July of 2019, so about 6 months ago. And it's grown really well since then. It grew all summer, and it's been growing all winter. And now it's time to do some shaping to the tree. With this project, I don't really know if this tree will ever become like a beautiful looking ficus bonsai. That's my goal, to try and get it to look like a really nice ficus. But you don't know if this will work until, way into the future. And a lot of work in bonsai is like that. You're working on a tree and you don't really see the results until maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Pruning scars heal and everything you've done to the tree starts to make sense in the future. And hopefully the same thing will happen with this tree, is that it'll slowly evolve and become a nice looking ficus. So today we'll be taking some more steps to try and get this to look like a nice tree. I'll rotate the tree around so you can see it from all angles before we begin the work. So here I go. And back to the front. The tree has a really thick layer of moss on top. This layer has been building up over the summer and the winter, and it's obscuring the entire root base. And I want to see what's going on with the root base. I may be changing the front of this tree in this styling session. So I just want to be able to see all the surface roots to help me make my decision, about styling the tree. So my first task will be to peel this really thick layer of moss off. I'm not exactly sure how thick this layer is, but I'm sure we'll find out. I think it's quite thick. At least, well, here you can see how thick it is. It's probably 2 centimeters or almost an inch thick. It's really thick. The problem with thick moss like this is you can get a lot of roots that grow into the moss, and instead of kind of growing just under the surface of the soil, they start kind of growing up and out of the root base. So, which it can be good or bad. I mean, it's good for maybe ramifying surface roots and aerial roots, but you can see it totally obscures the root base of this tree. I don't even know where the root base is anymore. I think too, when I last repotted this tree, I think I had a lot of soil, quite high up on the root base. So we can maybe remove a bit of that today and just generally clean up the root system. There's a lot of soil left over in the some of these aerial roots in the trunk here that I want to get rid of. That used to be when I had like a tinfoil collar around the base of the tree and it was surrounded with soil, just to get the roots from the cutting to grow down into the pot. All that's being accomplished. So, this tree looks like it has a long way to go, and it does, but it has come a long way from, the disaster when the top froze off in winter. In the plant room here, it got too cold and the whole top of the tree died. And I took a cutting off one of the branches and rooted it. And then I decided to try and save the tree by planting the cutting on the top. And so, yeah, it doesn't look like much yet, but it's come a long way from its near death. And, I said I don't know if this tree will ever be successful, but I will keep trying with it. I think any tree, given, enough time and work on it, can be made into quite a successful bonsai. And I'm sure this one will be successful. We'll get it to look like a nice tree, but whether it'll ever be like a, a world-class tree or even a nice showable tree, that remains to be seen. It might always just be a curiosity, I don't know. When moss gets this thick on the soil, you can't really tell if your soil's drying out or not, because the moss is so thick, and you can water on top of the moss and you'll know you're soaking the moss, but you don't know if it's running down into the bottom of the soil. If you have a thin layer of moss on top of the soil, it's no problem. You can tell when the moss is drying out, and the soil underneath is drying out too. But when you get a thick layer like this, you're kind of guessing with the watering. So that's kind of another reason I want to get rid of this giant layer of moss. And this moss will grow again. All the spores are in the soil still. As soon as the good weather comes, it'll be greening up once again. Lots of cleanup work to do on this root base. I'm just trying to get all this soil away from the trunk now too. I'll get my sprayer and I can kind of wash the roots as I go here. Like that. So I'm just continuing to clean out all the soil and moss around the surface roots here. And I'm quite happy with the surface roots. On a ficus tree, I like, the thick aerial roots and trunk coming down, and then the roots kind of subdivide and subdivide again and get finer and finer before they finally disappear into the soil. So they kind of come straight down vertically and then they flare out into the soil level. And this tree has a lot of nice fine roots at the base of the root system here. So I'm pleased with that. What I don't like on a ficus is if you have big thick roots that come down and they disappear into the soil. No subdividing, no flare at the base, and that just doesn't make the tree look miniature to me. And having a tree look miniature kind of adds an element of magic to the bonsai trees. It creates a bit of a wow factor that it looks like a giant tree in miniature. Some people aren't quite so fussy about getting their trees looking miniature, and I think if your tree doesn't look miniature, it loses some of the magic of bonsai. I'll rotate it around and I'll start working on the back, or what is the present back on it anyway. So this is the back of the root system, and it may end up looking better than what was the previous front of the tree. It all depends how all these aerial roots grew in, and so, I'll probably, the top of the tree hasn't had much styling. So the front of the tree will probably be determined by the view that has the best looking root system. So this back may become the front. I'll wait till I have it all cleaned up, and then we can take a good look at it and maybe make some decisions then. As this tree grows, it'll get more and more aerial roots on the trunk. So, some of these hollows may get filled in eventually. This will be an ever-changing trunk system and root system. Nothing stays still in bonsai. I'm switching the sprayer from kind of misting to jet, and I'll come in here and kind of spray down the roots, kind of washing them clean and get all those perlite particles out of the root base. That's working quite well. Tree will be well watered too. Pick out some of these chunks of perlite here. What I'm finding on this tree is that this side of the root base, which was the back, isn't quite as nice as the front, but the top of the tree is nicer on the back. It's more, you know, full. Whereas if I turn it around, you can see this has a nicer root base. It flows nicer. But the top of the tree has this big hole here. And, you know, there's one trunk that kind of is more towards the back. And it's alive. There's a shoot here. But nothing's really grown in this area. You know, the closest thing is maybe this trunk here. So, you know, that can be developed. It's, at the present time, it's not the best front for the top of the tree, but, you know, we develop that in the future, fill this out, and it should look quite nice. So I think based on the roots, this is definitely the nicer front for the tree. My intention for the styling of this tree, right from the first day I got it, was to have a huge umbrella tree, like a tropical ficus, a nice tapered trunk with all kinds of aerial roots, a nice branch structure all fanning out and creating this giant umbrella canopy. So that is still my intention, and I'll be pruning it today to try and get that kind of a structure. So all these lowest branches will be fanning out and then, you know, creating that broom style canopy. Keeping all my branches that are flowing outwards and getting rid of all the ones that are coming back into the center of the tree and crisscrossing and just not flowing beautifully. So yeah, so that's what I'll be pruning away today. Coming out from this trunk on the left hand side are these two branches that are coming straight out towards the person viewing the tree. And they're absolutely horizontal. There's one above each other. I'll rotate the tree around so you can see them. So right here. So they need to be pruned off. They don't flow. Like, I want everything to flow up from the roots and then flow out nicely to create these beautiful branches. I don't want abrupt angles at this point in time on the tree. So they will have to be pruned off, and I'm going to start by doing that. All right, here I go. I'll come in. I'll just rough cut them off for starters. There and there. And now I'll come in and I'll try and prune them flush. There. Like that. And this one up here. Like that. Maybe get that a little deeper. Like that. On the right hand side of the tree, I have my kind of major branch or trunk line coming up here. And I've got a branch coming out horizontally from here that I don't want, so I'll remove that. Like that. This one here, it actually flows fairly nicely. You know, I want everything fanning out, so this one does fan out nicely, and this one fans out nicely. Kind of fills in this part of the canopy. So I'm going to keep both of those. This one isn't like a horizontal branch like that. It flows upwards, so it's quite a nice branch. I'm looking at this branch now. It flows up nicely, but it's too tall. It starts to get in the way of these branches behind. So, you know, they're fanning out, but this one's just too tall, so it needs to be pruned back. So I'm going to start by pruning the upper portion of it off right here. See what that looks like. Oh, I didn't go all the way through. There we go. So that's much better, but it still needs some reduction up top here. So again, I'll prune off the leader to here. And I'll get out the pruners and we'll do a bit of tidying up on that branch. So I want everything fanning out on these branches nicely, so I'll remove a bit of vertical growth there. There's a branch coming towards the inside of the tree here. I'll remove that. Like that. There's a branch going straight up here. I'll get rid of that. And then I'll just prune off the tips to get some branch division. There's one that's going too vertical here. There's a couple growing vertically off of this branch. Get rid of this one and this one, maybe to here, like that. There's another vertical one here I'll get rid of. There's some vertical sections on this one I can get rid of, like that. Cut that one back a bit. I'm trying to keep always a decent amount of foliage on this tree. Take this one back a bit. If you strip a ficus down too bare, it takes a long time to recover and get vigorous again. So there's a branch on the inside here. I don't know if I want to keep that one or not. It's going from the top of the branch here, so I don't think I will. I'll get rid of that one, like that. All right, let's step back and have a look. This trunk line here is a bit of a problem. It grows up absolutely straight, and it was even taller, but I pruned it back as much as I could. There was a outward facing branch here, which is developed quite nicely. It was just a thin branch before, and it's taking over as the leader. There's one coming kind of out towards the front, directly over top of this branch here, which is too bad. If it was coming off more towards the back, I could reduce that straight section down. There's one coming off the back of it that's kind of horizontal. But, you know, if I reduce it down, then I lose all this nice part of the canopy up here. So I'm not going to do that. Even though this section is really straight, as it grows in the future, it'll get aerial roots and it'll thicken up and taper. And I think eventually that straight section will start to disappear. You know, as it blends in with the new leader, gets more character, it won't look so obvious as a straight section. I think it'll slowly disappear and kind of integrate into the tree. So I have to leave that, but I could get rid of this one that's in between these branches that's growing directly above this trunk line. It's not in a good position. So yeah, off it goes. Like that. I'll do some branch cleanup on this right-hand side branch now, getting rid of some of these branches that are growing in towards the tree. Keeping everything fanning outwards. Apex isn't in a good direction here. I'll take that off. This branch can be removed. Move this part of the branch here. That. This branch is looking good. There's a vertical section here I can remove. Prune this one back. Vertical part here I can remove. And take the tip off there. This lowest one off. It's kind of crossing in front of all the others. I'll take this section off here, or a leaf there and here. One off too. That's got this kind of right-hand side branch cleaned up now. I'm going to start going higher up into the canopy. Here you can see there's a branch growing in towards the center of the tree. So I will remove that. If it was growing, you know, towards the back, it would be fine, but it's growing straight in towards this other trunk. So off it goes. That wasn't a very good cut. There. Get rid of a dead stump here. There's a branch coming off here that's growing in towards this other branch here, so I'll remove that. Like that. Clean that area up. And another one here can be removed. Now, this trunk line, instead of fanning outwards at the top here, it's kind of converging with this other trunk line. So I need to reduce that back so it is fanning out. And I think I'll have to take it right back to this V-shaped junction here, keeping this as the new trunk line. So I will take the entire top of that tree off to here. Like that. So you can see now that trunk line flows beautifully. Each trunk line has its own room and space for sunlight. Now we're getting up into the canopy here. Dead branch there. So again, same cleanup techniques here. On this branch I have a branch growing in towards the center, so I'll get rid of that. This type of work is hard to watch because, you know, you're taking this beautiful green tree and you're kind of reducing it down, back down to the bare structure. But it's really important to get this primary trunk and branch structure in place, something that you like. So you have to be fairly ruthless at the start to get rid of all those crossing branches and areas that will just become problem areas in the future. So you're trying to think ahead and solving for the future. There's a vertical section I can take off there. I can take this part off here. Just cleaning up some of those branches. I'll take this vertical section off here. I want to get the height of this tree down too. It's starting to get really tall. I want to keep it a low umbrella, so that was one of the goals, was to reduce the height slowly in this tree, and did some big chops previously, and it's starting to work. An old stub I can remove there. Take the top off there, just reducing the height. Take the top off here. Move some of the branches growing in towards the center. Another one here needs to be removed. There's a branch growing inwards here. Has to go. So you can see there's still a lot of congestion in this area that needs to be sorted out. That one's got to come off. A lot of noise outside today. It's all the snow plows clearing up all the snow that came down. Maybe that's an airplane. I think it is. So I'm reducing the height down, keeping green leaves up on the tree here. Actually, I'm going to take this back to here. We'll take this down to here. Now, look at that. Okay, I think I'm going to have to rotate the tree around and do some work on the back of the canopy now. So this is the back of the tree now, and I'm just doing the same thing, you know, reducing any vertical growth. I'm pruning that off. Trying to keep all my branches nice and flowing. Clip and grow is often criticized for being very angular, but it doesn't have to be. If you choose the branches that flow really nicely, you can get a really smooth looking, natural looking tree. I'm looking at the tree from the front now, and the shape is getting there. It's maybe a little tall still for the width of the tree. You know, it'll grow wider on each side, but you know, right now the height is probably good if the tree was, you know, the canopy was out to here. So I think I'll have to reduce the apex of the tree some more if I can, reduce it back. There's a branch at the back. I don't know if you can see it, but this back kind of trunk behind there flows up and then it kind of crosses in the wrong direction. So I'll have to prune that off. So I'll rotate the tree around and we'll tackle that branch. So there's a look at that branch there. There's a branch that comes up and it kind of comes up this direction. So that'll have to be removed. So here's that branch here. You know, this one flows up nicely, but then it crosses. So I've got to get rid of that. There's another, let me get rid of that. There's another skinnier one that comes towards the back that isn't too bad, so I'll keep that one. All right, here I go. Like that. There's another one pointing in towards the center of the tree. I'll get rid of that short one here. Like that. Much better. There's a dead one here I can remove. So I wanted to reduce the height some more, so I'm just picking some points. I'll prune this one here. It's just too tall still. So I will take this one back to here. That. This one back to here. I'll rotate back to the front now and we'll have a look at it. There we go. It's looking fairly good. It looks quite bare, but you can see the structure. It's actually starting to look like a tree, which is nice to see. There is a branch growing back towards the center of the tree here. I'll remove that. Like that. Another one on the inside here I can remove. Like that, and this one here. A little bit dense over on this side, but that's okay. It needs to grow there. I'll clean up the bench here, and then we'll come in and have a final look at the Fusion ficus tree. Here's a look at the tree now. I'm quite happy with the progress of this tree. It's beginning to look like a regular tree. It doesn't look like a fusion project anymore. I don't think anyone, if I didn't tell them that that top was a cutting that was kind of rooted over top of a living trunk, I don't think anyone would ever be able to tell that, you know, it's not all one tree. You know, if you examined it carefully, you might, but I think, you know, in a few more years, that's going to disappear entirely and it'll look just like one unified tree. I think I'm happy with the overall shape of it. I think it's progressing nicely. It has a long way to go, but the structure's slowly getting in place. It's got some nice primary branches and trunks now. You can see the start of a canopy. It's got a nice root base. It's going in the right direction. It's looking better every year, and it's making good progress. So there's hope that someday this will be a nice umbrella-shaped tree with a giant shade canopy above it and aerial roots hanging down from the branches. And yeah, so lots of development to go still on it, but I'm really happy with the progress so far. When I'm developing this tree, it'll be important to develop it so it looks good from all angles, not just the front view. So it'll be a three-dimensional sculpture, a nice umbrella-shaped canopy with branches reaching out in all directions. And it should look quite nice. It's time now for today's update. Today's update is a bit of a story. I was on YouTube watching Gama-Uji's Bonsai channel, and The following video came up.
Look at the trees, and two fortunate individuals, one from YouTube and one from Instagram, will have the chance to win a set of golden shears. Oh yeah, follow me on Instagram too.
Just prior to watching this video, I got a letter from Dinu from India, and in his letter he described how enthusiastic he was about bonsai and how he had to make his own pots out of cement, and he had to make his own bonsai soil out of crushing up bricks. And I thought he could really use these golden shears. So I entered the contest, and here's my letter that explains, my reason for entering the contest. I just got a letter from a young person in India, and he loves bonsai and is growing a small collection of trees. He has to make everything himself as there are no bonsai supplies available in his village. He makes his own soil from bricks and his pots from cement. He loves his trees and the hobby, and it would mean the world to him to win the golden scissors. I would love to win the scissors just to pass them on to my new friend Dinu in India, who would treasure them forever. When Dinu got the shears in the mail, he was nice enough to make an unboxing video showing the golden shears and using them on his bonsai. So thanks very much, Dinu and Gama-Uji Bonsai, for the great contest. Dinu says, "Hi everyone, today I'm going to do a short video of unboxing a gift that Nigel, my teacher, sent to me, and I'll be pruning a tree."
ബോൺസായി രംഗത്ത് കിട്ടിയ ആദ്യത്തെ ചെറിയൊരു അംഗീകാരമാണ് ഈ പ്രൂണിംഗ് സിസ്റ്റം.
I will be doing a more detailed pruning later. This is my first recognition in the field of bonsai.
എനിക്ക് ചെറുപ്പം മുതൽ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ഉള്ളൊരു കാര്യമാണ് ബോൺസായി. പക്ഷേ നൈജൽ സൗണ്ടേഴ്സിന്റെ വീഡിയോ
I have learned lots from the videos. I hope this little gift will make my bonsai journey even stronger. I say thanks to Nigel Saunders of KW Bonsai and Dr. Alaric for this gift. Regards, Dinu. I'll put the link to Gama-Uji Bonsai in the description below. That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.